Hi, it's Perry here from Thinglish Lifestyle, and in this video we're going to be looking at how you buy real estate in Thailand as a foreigner. But before that, a word from our sponsors. So can you buy land in Thailand as a foreigner? Well, the simple answer to that question is no. You cannot buy land in Thailand as a foreigner. So if you want to put some money into land, you'll need a spouse, or that will go into her name, or his name. So you buy the land, put it in their name, and then you can lease it on 30-year terms back to yourself. So if you're a 50-year-old man retiring early, you've seen a plot of land, you buy that. If you've got a Thai wife or a friend, you can buy that land under their name, and then with a lawyer's help draw up a lease with favourable terms for yourself, and then you can stay there for 30 years. On that land you can do pretty much anything you want. You can build on it, making sure it's the right kind of land to build on, of course. You need a Chanote plot, and you can build your house on Thailand and stay there for 30 years. After that 30 years there is an option to take another 30, but again you have to negotiate that with the landowners, which will be the people who you've given the money to, basically, to buy the land. So that is one way to do it. There is grey areas where you can set up companies and things like that. Again, you need to see a solicitor to work that out, but it's a very grey area, and this does change quite a lot, and what might be a good deal at one point just down the road, down the line a little bit, maybe not such a good idea. The other thing about buying land in Thailand, if you're going to think you're just going to buy it, live the rest of your life, see the rest of your days out, that's fine. But the other thing is to realise, or just about acquiring any real estate or things like that, is on the back end. If you decide to sell it at a future date. So be aware of the price, location, and in your lease agreement, if you decide to sell, what happens there. So work all those kind of things out in your lease agreement. Can you buy a condo in Thailand? Well, the simple answer to that is yes, foreigners can buy condos. The only provision, or the main provision being, is 51% of the actual condos within the whole condo complex have to be Thai owned. 49% can be owned by us Farang, us Johnny foreigners. When you buy a condo in Thailand, you can own that outright. You don't own the land, but you own the condo. And again, look at the sellable value of it if you want to move on at some point, because many Thais don't like to build, they like to buy second-hand real estate, and there's a lot of condos built in, especially in Bangkok and Hue Hin and Pattaya. So the second-hand value of trying to sell your condo 5-10 years down the line, if you decide not to live here anymore, can be problematic. I personally, I don't see, I've stayed in a few condos in my time. I don't see the build quality that's great. They put them up pretty quick. I'm sure there's some good builders around, but the ones that I've personally seen, I can only speak from my personal experience. I don't think that's that great. The build is that great. I've known stories, neighbours who've had trouble trying to sell their condos, and as people do sell, the fees you have to pay on a monthly basis for the communal pool and gyms and security, etc., they can start rising. So we had my condo in Bangkok on the river. We had a riverboat taken across the river. That got very expensive. They wouldn't share that with any neighbours. They decided to discontinue that. Made it very inconvenient actually living there. And when you had the boat, it's great. When you didn't have a boat, it's very inconvenient trying to get around. Slowed everything, the whole process down, and people trying to sell their condos is pretty much a nightmare. And so that turned from, I am with some retirees there who thought that was going to be their place to stay, and they just rising costs of the fees, for the monthly fees. Pool's not working, the boat's not there anymore. It got a dream, a paradise, turned quickly into a bit of a nightmare. So be very careful with that. With any purchase of any property, be it land or a condo, get an expert opinion, expert help from a lawyer. All legal documents in Thailand are in Thai, so you need a Thai lawyer to negotiate for you, translate the documents for you so you understand what's going on, get everything clear. So it's very important to get a lawyer. Now, lawyers, there's many, and it can be a conflict of interest, so I always get a recommendation for a good lawyer from fellow expats, and get 2 or 3, check them all out. As I search online, there's a couple of big lawyer companies that do pretty much everything in Thailand. They're based in Pattaya and Bangkok, etc. Check those out. Recommendations are very good, but I wouldn't just get one, I'd get several, unless you know the person who's recommending you very well. Maybe some ulterior motives there, you never know. And never get a lawyer who's recommended to you by the seller. I've had that proposition to me several times, and if you live in a small area, everyone's kind of interconnected, so you're not going to potentially have your best interest being looked after by lawyers. You have to go online to see some of the shady things that some lawyers do. So yeah, it could be a whole nightmare, but a lawyer will help you greatly, negotiating all the legals and translations, things like that. Should you get an agent to find you some land or property in Thailand? Why not? It doesn't actually cost you anything, because the seller, they'll take a percentage, usually 2-3%, I believe, to sell someone's property or real estate. So you as a buyer don't actually pay anything. So to increase your eyeballs on the marketplace, as it were, enlist several real estate agents. I don't find real estate agents everywhere, in like high streets in the UK, etc. But you can go online, and a few places they do have bricks and mortar businesses with traditional real estate plastered in the window, etc. So yeah, check them out. It's not going to cost you anything, and it can increase where you can find actually property, and you can even enlist them to find things that you are actually looking for, be it a condo or piece of land or a house or whatever. The other thing about that is Facebook. If you go to Facebook Marketplace, you can find properties for sale. Again, most of the time the properties can be in Thai, but it depends what marketplace you go to. There's quite a few. So if you've got someone who speaks Thai, reads Thai, massive help. You can find properties that you wouldn't know existed. As a Farang, living here in Thailand myself, in a rural community, a lot of property that comes on kind of onto the market, they don't generally have signs on outside of the land or the house. It'll be just someone will come up to us and say, hey, this is for sale, or that's for sale, because their friends and family will get a commission for introducing. So so we actually get a lot of people coming to us saying we've got this property, and obviously 99.9% of the time we're kind of interested, but if someone catches my eye, then I'll have a look. But it's good to keep an eye on the prices as well. Sometimes when they come up to you, they just think because you're a Johnny foreigner, you've got lots of cash, and you're always looking to buy more and more land and stuff, which is not true. Not in my case, but quite happy with what I got. But so if you do live in a community, you will find that people come up to you. But again, don't take anything at face value. Check it all out. Make sure it's on the right title deeds. Go to the land registry, see who actually owns it, because someone might be selling some land but they don't actually own it. So make sure they've got the correct title deeds. We'll go down in a second. And yeah, just don't take anybody's word for it. Pretty much anything. Just got to be on your guard. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. So title deeds for properties in Thailand. So the best title deeds you really want to look at are Chanote. So Chanote title deeds are clearly marked out. They have generally have a concrete post, and they are GPS marked on the map. So it's very definite border, perimeter border of the property. So that's the title deeds you really want to be going for. Check with your local land registry, the government land registry department. Go to their office with the Chanote paper. Anybody selling you property should be able to produce a copy of the Chanote, which you can then take to your lawyer or take to the land registry office and check out, and just make sure it's up to date. You'll have a list of all the people who actually own that piece of land and the price it was sold for, and then it's kind of bona fide land. So Chanote is the most sought after title deed. You can pretty much do what you want on that piece of land. The next one down, if we look at layers, Chanote being the very top, the best one you want to go for. The next one is Sor Sam Gor. That's Sor Sam Gor. That's like a title 3, and that's almost as good as Chanote, but it's not generally GPS marked out, but it is defined clearly on a map from aerial views. So again, you will have a Sor Sam Gor document that lists everything. It's exactly the same as Chanote, who's held the land previously, and the prices it's been sold for, and it'll be marked out on the Sor Sam Gor paper as well. So you can check that out at the same land registry office. The only thing is, it's not GPS marked out, so it's not 100% defined, but I've bought Sor Sam Gor before. It's not a problem. It's almost as good. So Sor Sam Gor and Chanote are the two land title deeds you can want. The third one is Sor Sam. Now this is measured relative to other pieces of land. So again, as we're getting further and further down from the top Chanote, the boundary lines can be a little bit blurry. At a pinch, you can buy that. It may not have any problems, but there may be some contested boundaries. A metre here, a few feet over there. So if it's a large piece of land, probably nothing much to worry about. If it's a small piece of land, then you know, if someone's taken up a metre all the way down one side of your land, then you start looking at a sizable percentage of your land. So in all sorts, I would tend to stay away from that myself, being a cautious man. But it's totally up to you. It is doable, but proceed at your own caution. The other land is kind of like arable land, a poor Thai land, right? Basically, it's called Bor Tor or Sor Kor. Stick away from that. It's very cheap. Mainly just, you know, farmers are going rubber on it, things like that. When the land grab was, whenever that was, years ago, a lot of farmers went and got lots of land. So there's families here that have huge amounts of land, just growing rubber and things like that. So they're very land rich, but very sort of cash poor. But you can't build anything on that. And you see helicopters overhead every now and again, and they're just checking that there's no building structures within, you know, this land. There's a lot of land in Thailand. It's a big country, so they fly helicopters across and just to see if there's any buildings going up where there shouldn't be, you know, because you can't see them from the roads because of the trees and things like that, or they're set so far back from any road. And then you'll see, you know, the army come shooting in their Land Rovers or something, and go and check it out. But yeah, so stay away from that. You don't need that. If you were buying a lot of land as a farmer, if you was gonna, you know, grow rice or rubber or something like that, then you could buy some. But I believe that the government could take that at any time and give you kind of like a value for it. But if you just want an easy life and live in Thailand and soak up the sun and the singer, then just stay away from that. You know, it's not worth the bother, and certainly you don't want to be building on it because you'll lose everything. So and also land. This is a footnote. Land at any elevation shouldn't be built on either. I think that's owned by the Crown. So I've heard some stories that people actually started building on there, and you know, they've allowed it to happen, and when it's finished they come along and rip it all down. So don't touch any of that in only these holiday islands or anything like that, or pretty much anywhere. Any building on an elevation, stay away from it, and you should be fine. So stick with Chanote and Sor Sam Gor, and you will be fine. The measurement of land in Thailand is very different from the UK and America. So we don't have acres over here, or hectares or anything like that. It's called a rai. The unit of measurement is called a rai. So one rai is 1,600 square meters, or 17,222 square feet. So we measure everything in rai. So, you know, I've got 2 rai here, I've got 3 rai at the farm and things like that. I've got friends who've got 600 rai, you know, and so everything's in a rai. And I think a rai, or 2 rai, just to give you a general idea, below I'll link to some information below, but as a general idea, 2 and a bit rai, shall we say, we're not getting technical, 2 and a bit rai is about 1 acre. So about 2.4 rai is about 1 acre. About 1,600 meters is 1 rai. So yeah, we're measuring rais. Who would have thought? A few other things to factor in when buying land in Thailand. Transfer fees. So when you buy land off someone else, there's a transfer fee involved, obviously. Government got to take a little bit of a cut, haven't they? So that's generally 2%, and that can be negotiated between who's paying it, whether it's going to be you as the buyer, or the previous landowner as the seller. You can negotiate. You can pay half and half. They can pay. You can pay. You sort it out amongst yourselves. But it's going to be 2%. So quite often we've kind of split it, depending on the price of the land and things like that. So, but again, it's something to bear in mind. It's another 2% you've got to dig out and give to the government for doing absolutely nothing, really. So there's that. There's also if you get a lease, there's a fee for arranging the lease, and that is 1%. So if you lease a piece of land for 30 years, you can expect to pay the government 1%. Who would have thought? You just get 1% for nothing. Great. And the other funny thing is here is, well, not so funny, but everything's on paper. Everything's on paper. So you go to a land registry office or any government institution, everything's on paper. Everything's on paper, and you do multiple copies of the same documents. Nothing's really computerized here. So, which I find in this day and age, fast approaching 2020, they haven't got massive computer infrastructure here for all these kind of documentation. If there's a big fire in your local office, for like the Department of Land, everything's lost. I find it crazy. But anyway, because the one we go to in Llandnop is a wooden building full of paper in the bright hot sun. So you'll fill out a lot of paperwork in this kind of thing, but you do, the bureaucracy here for all things is tremendous, yeah, just be aware of that. So 1% for extra for a lease, to arrange a lease, and 2% on the sale of the property either way, which you can maybe lose, or maybe you have to pay half or pay all, depending on your negotiation skills with the seller. Stamp duty. There is a stamp duty, and it is currently about 0.5%, 1% on land sale, and 0.1% on a lease. So that's on top of the other 2% and 1% for the lease. Okay, so now we look at the back end. So if you decide to sell at some point, that's going to cost you too. There's a withholding tax, and depending how many years you've lived in that property, or if you lived in it at all, and will be calculated on how much you pay for this withholding tax. That can range anywhere between 5 and like 35%. So be aware of that. So always think about the back end when you're buying, what you're going to do in the future, because that's going to cost you as well to get rid of the property. So, and also currency controls. So I know recently a friend of mine sold a property. He's probably owned it for 4 or 5 years, and they decided to move back to Australia, and they can't get all their money out. They sold the house and they couldn't get all their money out of the country in one go. So I think every 3 months they've got to come back and get some money out. It's very complicated. I haven't actually sat down with him and spoke about it, but it just gives me the top line. So again, something else to look out for at the back end. Getting your money out of Dodge if you decide to go back home, or just sell that property and try to take some money out of Thailand. So it's something to be aware of that most people don't think about when we invest in things. You think about the investment initially, but don't think about the back end when you want to relieve yourself of those investments. So 35 up to 35% withholding tax, and then the currency controls within the country, taking the money back to your country, is something worth considering and investigating a little bit more. Speak to your lawyer, speak to other people who've had the same, been in the same position, to get a clearer understanding of where you are when you do it or before you do it, because things change all the time in this kind of arena, with currency controls, etc. So worth checking out. Okay, like with any major purchase, you need to do your own due diligence. So we're all adults here, so don't take my word for what we can do. This video may be out of date time you've seen it, but do your own due diligence, speak with the lawyers, and don't rush into anything at all. So things you can do to protect yourself is take the title deeds, make sure you're dealing with the owner of those title deeds who's selling, and take them to the local land office to quantify everything's as it should be. Make sure there's no ongoing legal disputes with the land. It's not in some lease agreement, or it's not backed against a loan or anything like that. It's worth doing that. Well, I recently bought some land, and it was part owned by the bank because they owed the bank a massive debt, and that's the reason why they ended up selling the land. They needed to pay this debt off. It matured. They didn't have any cash, so they had to sell the land. So I ended up buying part of it off the bank and part off these people, a very small part of these people. They all came together in the end. Quite complicated, but because of the way it was very lucrative for me. I got it very, very cheap, and it's all good. So loads of things to look out for there. There's lots of gambling debts and household debts. So make sure your land is not collateral against future debts these people are selling. You don't want anybody coming around and taking it from you. Government value of the land. When you actually go into the land office, they kind of know the prices of land in your area. So it's quite tempting to negotiate with the seller and agree on one price, and then tell the land registry a very low price to avoid paying higher taxes. Basically, makes sense. But just be aware that they are aware of the true value of the land in your area. I would also try to find out if anything else is going on in the area, like you would at home. Like, is there a new road going to be built right outside your front door? Is there actually planning permission for certain buildings? Is a theme park going to be built next door? Things like that. See if you can find out what's actually happening in the local area. Spend some time there. Anecdotal, to speak with local people. Go to the local noodle shop, Neighbours. Just find out what's happening. Last thing you want to do is buy a house thinking you're well set back off the road, and they widen the road tremendously, and you lose what you thought was half your land because of road widening or whatever it could be. It could be countless things. So do your own due diligence there. Check out anything ongoing in the area that could impede your property. It might be a good thing. There might be an airport going in, some close, not too close, but close. Might be great for to escape, but you don't want planes coming really low over your house. So just find out what could be going on in your local area. Check it out. If you're buying, I'm speaking now because I'm just speaking about residential properties, condos and houses and land. But you may want to buy a bar or a club, or some business. I don't have any experience in that. The last thing I would do is actually go to business here in Thailand. I think it's fraught with problems, and I see far too many people who's never spend a lot of time in bars, but never actually working in a bar or owning a bar, and then they come to Thailand and sink all their retirement into a bar and realise it's not so much fun running a bar that it is sat there having a drink, chatting to the barman or the barmaid. So if you're going to do that kind of thing, go into it with eyes wide open. Go and work at a bar somewhere first. Do some business school. check it all out, and don't piss your money away basically on some foolish endeavour. Far too many bars here. I've just been to the islands for a weekend. There's far too many bars and not enough people. It's crazy. Why don't everybody want to open a new bar? I do not know. But anyway, some food for thought. You know, and the last thing you do if you've got a property and a noisy bar opens up next to you or something, you don't want to do that. So again, just do your own due diligence. You know, if you are going to buy, you know, a business, a bar, club, whatever, take the accounts to an independent accountant, get them audited, find out if it actually makes money, how much it loses. You know, again, just do your own due diligence. I'm kind of getting off the scope of buying land here, but it's more about buying businesses and stuff. But I don't see the attraction myself. One other thing about due diligence would be the weather. Does your property flood? Is it prone for fires or anything like that? It's in the dry season here. It gets very dry, and we're in the greenish part of Trad. So up in the north and in this area, it gets very, very dry. So is there a fire risk? On the other turn, when in the rainy season, are you at risk from floods? Has the area flooded before? These are things you really should be checking out, because the waterways aren't maintained very well. So flooding can occur, and when the rain comes down, it comes down so hard, so much water, and it can rain for months. So so check that. I would build on a elevated position if I was, well I have. I built a house on an elevated position and then raised it up as well, just to make sure. So well, pretty soon had to raise the water level. Had to raise extremely high to get my feet wet. But you know, these are things you need to think about seriously. And another one is noisy neighbours. Visit a property several times, different parts of the day. Just drive up in the evening, early morning, middle of the day, because you know, some neighbours are very noisy. They may be used to having no neighbours. They shout, scream, dogs barking, loud music playing outside. All this can happen. So I can hear like music from like a mile away. It travels out here in rural Thailand. Obviously that doesn't bother me, it's so far away, it's so low. But if I was, you know, a mile down the road and I was my neighbour, I wouldn't be very happy about that. So they're kind of oblivious, don't realise it impedes on someone else like we would back home, most people back home. I know we have noisy neighbours too. But yeah, so think about noisy neighbours, cars, motorbikes, all that kind of thing. You can have your dream property, but you could be really, really spoiled by constant noise and things like that. Because, you know, especially in rural Thailand, a lot of people working in the rubber and farming, stuff like that. So, you know, maybe they sleep during the day, in the hot part of the day. Why would you work in the hottest part of the day? Now it's approaching midday. It's hot out here. I'm on the shade. I don't want to be working out in the field. So farmers here, they'll sleep in the day, and they'll do the rubber at night. They'll go out and farm the rubber at night, you know, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. That's when they do it. So then they come back. But before they go, they might drink, you know, get a few friends around, party, whatever. So if you're not aware of that lifestyle that they live, and they've always lived, and then you try to move into their community, it's they're not going to change, and you're going to be somewhat pissed off. So if you like a property, you see a nice property, go back over several days, different times, day, night, and just check it out. No problem. Another thing to look out for: electricity. Living in rural Thailand, the electricity goes down quite a lot, to say the least. And water. So let's do electricity first, and we'll go on to water. So electricity, trees hitting the pylons and the cables all the time. If you've been in Thailand any length of time, you'll see cables everywhere from posts and things like that. It's not, you know, they're not generally underground. So the electricity will go down when the wind picks up, trees come down, and sometimes just for no apparent reason the electric goes off. So you can look at, if you're aware of that and you can live with that, it sometimes goes off for a few minutes, a few seconds, sometimes maybe 4 or 5 hours. Where we live, there's a lot of shrimp farms, so they've all got their own generators, so they just kick in and they'll keep the shrimp alive. They don't last very long without the irrigation, without the aeration. So you could get a generator, like a diesel generator, or you could go solar. Solar is very expensive, and you can't sell it back to the grid here. So it would take, well, I worked out, it would take me 30 or 40 years to pay off a decent solar system to run my house on. So it wasn't really worth it. So it's such a shame because there's sun here all the time, but they want you to use electricity, obviously, for their benefit, not for the benefit of the planet. So we don't have solar. We have some solar lights and things like that, but we don't have a solar backup or anything like that because the cost is prohibiting, you know, for what it is. If anything, I'd get a generator for 15 or 20,000 baht and have that. I keep threatening I'm going to do that because sometimes electric does go off, and then I'm always, you know, you're not too happy about it. But then it comes back on, and then you forget about it. So one day I will buy a generator because it is annoying. The other thing to take into account is water. Do you have government water to your house? Is that constant? Our farmhouse, the water level comes and goes, the pressures comes and goes. At our house here, not much of a problem. We generally have water, but we have our own well, things like that. So the alternatives, if you don't have water, is to store water, and or drill a well. So you have water on site, and then just in case the government can't deliver their water, you do have a backup. You can also buy water in big, few gallon containers from many local shops, and it costs about 15 baht, and that's all drinkable water. So you can have a couple of those on standby as well, and for 30 baht you can have those, and yeah, you're all good. A little backup. Always good to be prepared, because you know what's going to happen. So there are things to look out for when you're buying land and property in Thailand, for sure. Things you don't tend to think about because we're used to turning on a tap and having water, but over here it doesn't always work as simply as that. Okay, so you've got some land or a condo or property in Thailand. What kind of visa do you need? Buying land doesn't give you any more rights than anybody else here in Thailand as a foreign. I could fly into the country and they could give me notice that I can't come in. So then I have a house and a farm and, you know, a dog and things like that, a wife, and I can't come in the country if they deny my visa. I could live here for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, people have, and they still can't get a long-term visa to stay here. So unlike the UK where you can, you know, get a visa very easily, a long-time stay, you can't do that. They protect it for all the Thais. I understand that. I kind of like that to a degree, but it is kind of a bit daunting when you kind of invest in you know, quite a bit of money into land and property, and business and relationships, things like that in the country of choice. So your visas that you can get, you can go online and find out the current state of visas. But a 30-day visa would generally give you, you know, like a holiday visa. You can extend that. I'm on a marriage visa, so I can stay for a year, but every 90 days I have to report my address. So every 90 days, I just did this on Boxing Day this year, I go to the immigration office and they stamp my visa for another 90 days, and then so I live in here in increments of 90 days, and people have been doing that for decades. and looks like I will be doing it too, unless anything changes anytime soon, which I doubt if it will. So if you buy a property here, you don't have any other special rights. So you will have to get if you bought a property and you've got it under a business, you can have a business visa. You may be working here for a company and have a work visa. You can stay here as long as you keep working for that company and on that visa. But I'm on a marriage visa, so I don't know what other visas there is. You can check that out. You can Google that. I'll actually put a link down below in the description and on our blog, some more information about visas. But if you've got a property here, you don't really want to be on a tourist visa and just stay here for a couple of months or a month at a time. If you investing in a property here, you probably want to spend a lot longer. So you probably want to be looking at a retirement visa. Give you a year. Excuse me. So if you're looking at a retirement visa, maybe you can stay here for a year. But every 90 days you do have to report. But that'd be probably the way to do that. And there's special requirements for visas that I'm not going to go into in this video. But I'll put a link below to all the visa requirements, so you can look at that. But yeah, even if you buy land here in Thailand, you don't get any special rights to stay here either. So if you buy land, or a condo or property, you don't get any more rights than anybody else to stay in this country above your 30 days tourist visa. This video is coming to a close, and I just want to reference most of the information I got from this was written and compiled by my good friend Magazine Dave, who runs the Koh Chang Guide. So I'll put a link to this property guide in the link in the description below, and from my blog, and check it out. It's the most comprehensive guide I have seen about buying property, leasing property in Thailand. It's full of great resources, and he also runs a service where if you're looking for property in Trat or mainly Koh Chang, probably Koh Kud, he has properties listed on there too. So if you're looking to buy property in Koh Chang, Koh Kud or Koh Mak, or maybe even a bit of Trat, then check out the Koh Chang Guide and their property guide, and give Magazine Dave a shout. I'm sure he'll be pleased to hear from you, and let him know Perry from Thinglish Lifestyle sent you on your merry way. He'll look out for you. He's a good guy. He's been in Thailand for something like 300 years or something like that. No, he's been here like at least 15 years. He's married and family and everything here. So he's a good guy. Check him out. And he's also got some lovely villas, some luxury villas that you can rent. Great for a family on Koh Chang. With that being said, at the end of this video, I've got some lunch to take care of. But we have also, at the time of making this video, we have some land for sale by Old Tan Beach, which the beach overlooks Koh Chang Island. It's a great location. Our piece of land is just off a quiet sort of the main road, and it's 2.62 Ngan, which is about a quarter of a rai. Nice piece of land. It's all prepared to build on now. I've actually split it with the land office into 2 plots. So you can buy 1 plot, or you can buy the other plot, or you can buy both plots together. You can buy both together. There's a good discount, and it's in a great location next to harbour and beach and schools and temples and all kinds of stuff. But it's in a nice quiet spot as well, and it overlooks Koh Chang. So you can moor up a boat in the dry or wet harbour, and you can take a private boat across to Koh Chang in 30 or 40 minutes, I think. Or you can just go around the corner to the ferry as well. It's just down the road, 5 minutes, 4 minutes. You can get the ferry, get the public ferry as well. So it's in a great location. beach is superb. It's a beautiful horseshoe beach. It's actually two there. Very quiet in the week, and just local Thais in the weekend. So really nice. Check it out. I'll leave another link for that down below as well. And with that being said, that's it for this video. I hope you got something out of it. If you're buying or thinking of buying land or property in Thailand, let me know what you thought in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and ring the notification bell below to be notified of any future videos. Most of our videos are about living in Thailand, rural Thailand, working on a farm, growing cacao and various fruits and vegetables, and our dogs, crazy things like that. Cooking, Thai cooking experience, Thinglish cooking experience, all kinds of stuff like that. So we've got a lot going on here. Check it all out. It's all on our YouTube channel and on our blog, which is thinglishlifestyle.com. And with that, I will say, Sawadee Cap. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day and a Happy New Year. Take care. Bye bye.